Welcome to the Success Factor, which is a segment of the Westbury Radio Show. I'm very happy to have you here today. And one of the things that we try to do in this segment is focus on success. And, you know, whether it's in the form of a business or form of an enterprise or in the form of a community group or a youth organization, success comes in all kinds of different ways. And I'll tell you something that we really need to find success in, and that is in feeding America. The hunger that exists in this country is unbelievable to me. I just can't really fully understand how, well, you know, for most of us, hunger is something that we feel when we're sitting in the front of the television and we get up and go to the refrigerator. But hunger is a hell of a lot worse than that. And not only is it the pain of hunger, but it also has the stigma and that's attached to it that, you know, some people won't even go out and get help because it is so dehumanizing to them to go through that process. But I'm here today with Todd Lippa, who is the director of a care center in Farmington Hills that has a food pantry. And I visited with him earlier this week. And although, you know, hunger goes on everywhere, it's sometimes better to try to look at it in a local situation and see. When you go there, if you go and visit a food pantry, you'll want to support it because what you see will tug at your heart. And Todd, you've been with the Farmington Cares Center for the last couple years. Is that right?
That is correct. Yep, I've been there, and sort of a vision of ours when we knew that it was possibly closing.
It was a food pantry that was going to close.
It was a former church, and the diocese was closing the church. The pantry was there, and we started to get really worried as the youth director of Farmington Hills. We had a number of families using that pantry, and we were quite worried that those families would be without food if that pantry didn't exist.
And just for those who may or may not know, Farmington Hills is a very affluent community. It's in Oakland County, which is, I think, either the first or the second most affluent county in the country. And it's, an area of $1 million homes and $500,000 homes. And this is not, I don't want to pigeonhole anything, but I would say this isn't, not Louisiana or something.
Right.
But I know all of Louisiana is not the same thing too,
and not necessarily socioeconomic. Really, I mean, overall, I mean, it is in the broadest sense, but really, it's not about the area, but it's about the need of people in general.
So, you service like 500 families, is that right?
We're at 571 as of July 1st.
And how many people does that represent?
It represents about 1,375 folks that are using, actually it's 1,323 individuals that come to our pantry each and every month.
And as I understand it, I'm hearing that a very large percentage of the hunger in America is in children, is with children?
It is, as families have expanded and times have changed since 2006, and the food hunger need is there. We are serving more children. We're serving more than we thought we would serve even. Our numbers right now for children under the age of 17 is about 33% of our folks that come there every month. 33% are children.
Now, when you took this pantry over, you had to find financing for it. You had to find staff or volunteers and all those sort of things for it. That must have been a real challenge.
It was. Luckily there were volunteers that had been there for 35 plus years when it was the former St. Alexander's Pantry. We then had to look at really how do we staff this, how do we continue this, and knowing that we wanted to grow, we wanted to add, and we did. We fortunate and blessed to get volunteers.
I know this may be difficult, and I may be putting you on the spot a little bit, but we certainly don't want names. But what's a story that you experienced with the individuals coming into the pantry that has pulled at your heart?
Well, first of all, that pantry was a pantry that I grew up in. That was the church I grew up in. We also knew that there was a lot of need in the area and the surrounding area. There are communities right in that southeast corner of Farmington Hills that border it that are having the same issues. And when I was a young man, our family used that pantry. And we started to see that moms were saying they didn't like the way the pantry was. You come in, you got a bag of food or a box of food. And so that tugged at my heart. And right away, it tugged at some of our volunteers, and especially our new pantry director, Dolores. That really touched her heart. And with her experience and our drive together, and those that have been supporting CARES and our board, we really wanted something different. So in order to make that difference, we went from a pantry where you walk in and get a box of food to a pantry where you self-serve yourself, walk up and down the aisles, check out just like any grocery store would. That right there has made a wealth of difference, and the dignity has been raised in all of our clients.
And you grew up using that pantry.
Yes, my father would stop in there on occasions and pick up extra food because we had a pretty large family, and my mother had passed away at my young age, and it just was a support factor for us.
We're going to go to a clip here about a pantry that's in Vermont, I think it is, and it's just bear with us. Watch this.
When loved ones fall on hard times, you can choose to either take care of them or pass them on to somebody else. I chose to take care of mine. My name is Candy, and I'm from Wells, Vermont, and I have a husband and 3 children. I live with my parents, Philip and Patricia. Because of my dad's health, I have to watch him 24 hours a day. My dad has severe advanced Alzheimer's dementia. He can't tell you that I'm his daughter, Candy. Who's that lady? My Candy? Yeah. Sometimes my dad is tough. My mom's had stents 3 times to her heart, and they have her as a fall risk. I could not have a job and provide the care for my parents that they need. It's just nonstop. My husband works 40 hours a week, but my husband is actually talking about getting a second part-time job just because things are tough. You like your breakfast? Yeah. I have gone without meals. My husband's gone without meals to make sure that our kids or my parents ate. I was relieved when I found out that there was a food pantry in my own hometown. We are able to go in, and it's just like shopping in a grocery store. You get meats, vegetables, cereals. I was nervous at first, but there's nothing to be ashamed of. We're not the only family living this situation.
Oh, it's very good to have people like that to help other people. I don't know what we would do without them.
It means a lot. I'm able to feed my children, my mom and my dad. I love my parents. I love them with all my heart. They took care of me when I was little, and now they need my help. It's my turn. I'm thankful that I can turn to the Vermont Food Bank or the local food pantry to get by. I can relax better at night knowing that I can put breakfast on the table tomorrow morning for my parents and my family.
You know, I think that helps for some people. I know it helps for me to answer the question of why are people in that position. And, you know, there's nobody who wants to find themselves going to a food pantry. And a lot of people who are outside that experience, they have a perception that, oh, they're lazy. They're looking for an easy ride on it. And that's not the case. It's just not the case. In fact, I think, to be honest with you, it's harder work to walk in that door to the pantry than it would be to walk into a sweatshop of a job. And when I was there this past week, when we were sitting in your office talking, and I'm probably an outlier in this regard, but whenever I hear a baby cry, I sort of remember my kids when they were babies and crying, and I smile. It doesn't bother me. I like to hear I think maybe a lot of people don't mind hearing someone else's baby cry.
That's the truth, isn't it? It's another baby. You're like, well, that's okay. I don't have to deal with that.
It's always a little easier.
Yeah.
But it tugs at me a lot, and I know that the shelves at your pantry are not as full as we would like them to be. And I did put on my on our Facebook page, which is we're probably on it now, but anyways, it's at Wesley Berry Radio, and we have a donate button on there that would go to your pantry. And I certainly hope that a few people will consider making a donation of some sort. But whether you do that or not, I think it's more important that you take a step through that door, even if not because you need the service, but to see what the service is. Because when you see those people who are volunteering, or those people, if they are employed, are being paid way below what they would be entitled to be paid to do their job. And when you look at the food that's being donated in some cases, but most of it you have to buy.
Correct.
And maybe the next time you go in a grocery store and they're having a food drive for a food pantry, you'll understand it a little better. I have a hard time, when I'm walking someplace and somebody comes up and asks me for a couple bucks sometimes. Sometimes I'm afraid that I'm encouraging something. But, and I don't always do it, there's something in the Bible about that anybody who asks, you need to have some compassion to help.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure exactly what page it's on right now, but I'm sure that my childhood pastor, Freed, will probably remind me later what
it's Matthew. Matthew talks a lot about that. He talks about helping those that need help, and it was Jesus. And it's, you had mentioned a few things there, and if I can, you talked a little bit about the need. You talked a little bit about how it happens.
Yeah.
None of us knows what tomorrow brings.
Right.
A family can change dramatically. And it was really interesting when we first took over the pantry and CARES became a 501c reality. We noticed that Michigan had done a pretty nice job on surveying folks to find out what the needs were at the pantries. And one of the things that came out is less than 1% of the folks using a pantry didn't need to use it. So that means 98, 99% of the people coming there. And you're absolutely right, Wes. Why would anybody want to walk into a pantry if they don't really need it? But on the other hand, if that 1% walks in the door, maybe they need it in their own way. And that's not my choice to say to them, or our staff's choice to say, you don't belong here. So we made the decision we would serve everybody. It was great that Gleaners and a lot of other pantry organizers said, let's get away from the minimums and the maximums. Let's talk about just walking in the door, asking for some support, and giving it to them. And that's what really made the huge change, is now everybody who walks in the door, we base it on your honesty to tell us that you need it, and that dignity needs to be there. You were absolutely right. No one walks in and wants to ask for a handout if they don't need it. But also, you should never feel embarrassed or lack of pride if when something does change, you need a little bit of support. We want to lift people up, and the only time we shouldn't be willing to do that is when we know they don't need it.
Not all that many years ago, I had a friend, more of an acquaintance than a friend, but a friend. And I had called him up about him coming to some activity or whatever, and he said that he wasn't able to come because he was trying to sell his tools because he needed the money because he'd been unemployed for a while. So, and I said to him, well, if you need some help, let me know. He was letting me know, but I wasn't listening. And I know that this is a stretch, but a couple months later, he had taken his life. And, so he was actually reaching out for help when he said to me that he had to sell his tools. And I'm not saying that I'm the only person, or I'm. It's a hard thing to understand, but it can happen to anybody, and nobody should overreact to it. The person who's giving or the person who's receiving.
Well, take 2006 to 2011. In this state, we saw devastation. We saw things just spiraling downward. People that I never would have thought were out of a job were out of a job.
Yeah.
All of us took cuts in our pays just to keep our jobs. Some businesses lost everything just to keep open their door.
Sure.
So others won't lose jobs. You know, life can throw things at you, a death of a family member, an injury to a child, your health conditions. None of that should stop us from making sure that you have the sufficient ability to get your food that you need. Food is a simple thing to be able to help in this country. We have more of it that we throw out than we should, and hunger needs to be cured. And with Gleaners' support and Gleaners being able to purchase things in such large quantities, so those of us that run pantries can really get that help to those families, and a beautiful program that they have called Link to Feed gives us the kind of data that I can give you and all of your listeners, and know that when we're giving that information to you, it's correct. It's 100% there. Those numbers go back to Gleaners all the time. Link to Feed is a great program. When Gleaners came out with it, so we can use it.
We're in just a minute. We're going to go to a break, but I want to. This is what I would like to try to talk about when we get back. A lot of people say, "Oh, well, why should I give to this charity? The government takes care of them. I pay my taxes. They get. I hate that word, but they should remove it from the dictionary. But they get it from the government. Oh, they get a bridge card and they buy lottery tickets. Let's talk a little bit about that when we get back, because that's a fallacy that people have, and it's an easy one to have. It's very easy to embrace that mentality. We're going to go to a break now to hear some good things that we all need to know about.
Optimus volunteers contribute time and money to programs that inspire and bring out the best in kids. Optimus give leadership, guidance, and hands-on involvement to activities that shape young people's lives. Optimus help form positive attitudes in kids. And Optimus create opportunities for youth as they develop into adulthood and become role models for future generations. Optimus are doing all these things right here, right now.
Masons Among Us, brought to you by Michigan Masons.
Listed at 7'1" and weighing 325 pounds, he was one of the heaviest players ever to play in the NBA. He won 4 NBA championships and numerous MVP awards in his 19-year career and is currently a basketball TV analyst. His name, Shaquille Shaq O'Neal, a proud member of the Masonic fraternity.
Brotherhood, fellowship, community. Be a Mason. Go to wearethemasons.org to find out more.
They gave me Vicodin after my knee surgery. They kept prescribing it, so I kept taking it. I didn't know it would be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
Welcome back. This is the Success Factor segment of the Westbury Radio Show, and we're talking with Todd Lippa about feeding people, hunger in America, and what it means. And just before we went to the break, we were discussing, that a lot of people might, have the mindset that they don't need to do anything because the government's going to take care of things. I know the government helps, but it doesn't really do the job, right?
You're right. Wes, it's the government helps in the way of helping us to buy federal foods or get foods from like TFAB and Gleaners and those places.
But you still have to pay for the food that
pay.
You get from Gleaners.
Absolutely.
Because it isn't just the cost of the food that's a margin. It's the handling, the delivering, the gas that goes in the truck that brings it there. The product costs in all areas is only a small portion of what the price is.
Correct. And we're fine with paying those prices because that gives us some consistency in our pantry.
Sure.
The donations come in and you never know what they're going to be, but by being able to purchase those foods, you have somewhat of consistency to your families that are part of your guest. And with all of the changes happening in this country, and they're not scarce to Farmington, Farmington Hills, Retford, Novi Township, all of the different places that we serve. But when you have hunger and there's so many families living on, the federal poverty line, and they're somewhere around $2,252 a month, or they're at about $27,000 a year. Let's be honest, that's not going to cover everything that you need. And the first thing you're going to give up, as we know, is probably going to get more food for your family. And that we don't need in this country. So, when we look at it, we know that there's some changes that even we can make at CARES. And one of the big pieces that we want to do is to be able to allow those families, one, to help them with travel expenses because they don't have to drive all over. But if we're lucky enough in the next 3 to 4 months, especially with the grant we just received from the Gannett Corporation and Thrive to build our pantry, which would be a SNAP store and a WIC store right in the free pantry that we have. So those moms who need to come and pick up another piece of item for their families can pick it up right there at a low reduced cost and be able to feed their families and possibly help us with lowering the amount of food that goes off the free shelf because they can buy it for a reasonable price and feed their families with our SNAP and WIC store.
Right. But those programs, they really can't handle the full need that people have. The idea that the government will take care of everything. First of all, if just think about that for a minute. Do you really want the government taking care of everything? That's not a good idea to start with. And it's so important for people to appreciate what other people are going through. I work with a group that builds some wheelchair ramps. And sometimes when you're building the ramp, you'll say, well, why don't they come out and help? Or you'll think to yourself, well, he could do that. You know what? It's not important whether or not they, I don't want to say deserve, but I'll say deserve. It's more important that they need. And anybody who needs, they deserve. And that's a hard thing to understand.
We all need help at times. And we all need help. We can be the smartest person in the world, but you may need some help with something that you're doing in your own home. Are you available to ask for that help? That's the neat part about it, I think. Being able to ask for that help. And if we can lessen the need for food by having a free pantry, by having a WIC and SNAP store on our property,
sure. If
we can turn around and make those things affordable for families, the government's job is to make sure that our communities and safe, they have the recreation that we want, especially working for the city of Farmington Hills. I know how important it is that we give the right things to our citizens. But also, when you come to a pantry, if everybody who doesn't need to use it just gave $20 to their local pantry,
right,
the hunger would go away faster than we could ever believe.
And if you gave that $20 to the government to give to the pantry, it would stick to so many different fingers that by the time it got to you, it'd be 50 cents probably. I'm not trying to infer that directly, but that's the feeling that I have.
And we love the support that our communities and our schools are giving us. Mm-hmm. We definitely need that because they do it in a number of different ways through fundraising, through little sales of tickets, whatever it might be. We need their support. But we also want to be self-sufficient so that we don't have to call upon those government agencies to say, we can't do this without your help, but support it.
Well, what a lot of people miss is they think, I can't solve that problem. My $20, you know what? You can't help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. And I've heard that all my life, and I don't know who said it first. I don't really care. You know what I mean? And if you look it up, Ronald Reagan said it someplace, and if you look it up, somebody else said it someplace. But it's a truism that you can't help everybody, but everybody can help somebody. And if today, just the loose change in your pocket, if you can throw it in the right bucket or put it in the right place, or if you want to go to my Facebook page and make a donation to this particular food bank, it would be really a great way for you to help somebody.
Absolutely. So Todd, just from a personal perspective, what certainly you've mentioned there's financial donations, there's direct product donations. What are you most in need of, or what's the most popular thing, or how can someone help if they wanted to provide food as opposed to cash? How could they help most?
We have on our campus, we have a food pantry, a clothing closet. We take both of those as donations. Both are free to anybody who comes in. We give away about 3,000 pieces of clothes a month. And then what we can't use, we share with other partners. As we've said, our numbers of food are up high. So we get a lot of support from local stores and local families. We also have WIC on board. So if you're a mom with children and you need help and they're under 5, come over to WIC. Another Day Resource Center is there if you need help and you're homeless. They're helping people.
Wow.
We have another great resource, which is Southeastern Rebuilding Together right on our property. They have their offices there, and they'll fix anything from a broken leaky faucet to whatever you might need in your house if you qualify.
Well,
awesome.
Here, we were getting real near the end of the show, but I want to share something with everybody here. I will like to challenge you to just go and do something. I don't care whether it's looking in your closet and finding something you haven't worn in 10 years, or whether it's going in your pantry at your house and taking out an extra can of beans. Do something and take it to one of these places yourself. The way it will change the way you feel you'll be blessed in ways that you can't even understand, just because you'll be stretched a little bit further, and you'll find out more. You'll expand your comfort zone, and you'll be really making a difference. Thank you again for being here today. This is Wes Barry, and I've been here with Todd Lippa and also with Ryan Toll, and hopefully you'll hear from us again next Sunday. Share this with your friends, and have a great week.